On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. I mean, that's real. There ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
As I am also Chad Smith. Yes, I'm both. Well, there he is. Aussie Rob, how's them ham hocks looking? Let me know if I'm alive tomorrow, Rob. We'd appreciate an update from the future. Lazarus and gorgeous Nikki in Seattle, good to see you. And who else do we got here? Alexander Pinedo, welcome to our chat room. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'd appreciate it if you haven't already. Our man Millennium, what's happening, brother? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And we are caught up in the chat room so far. We're going to get all paranormal here in about 29 seconds. Remember, the super chat is open. It's a great way to support what we do on a nightly basis. So thank you very much in advance. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new. Ring that bell. You can also do a little bit of shopping on our website, spacedoutradio.com, because we got a bunch of swag up there. Put some new stuff up there, including Spaced Out Radio runners. Yes, sneakers. Here we go. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a good friend here talking ghosts all night long. It's president and founder of A Ghost, Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle, Tacoma. Ross Allison is here. He's got over 30 years of investigation into the paranormal and 17 years running his team. And he travels literally internationally looking for any type of ghost stories to collect research from. He's been lecturing since 2004, just got off the road after a big East Coast swing of lectures, and he has started a brand new type of docuseries. This is called Parasense. This is going to be taking paranormal into a way different realm, and I think I'm very excited to have Ross here actually break it all down for us. So let's get him on in here. Ross Allison, my friend, it is always a pleasure to have you here, and we'll be talking to you in just a couple of nights on the Angry Ghost Hunter, a once-a-month show we do on our YouTube channel. But it's always good to have you here, my friend. How you been doing?
I've been doing good. Surviving, especially as just got past the Halloween season, which is my busiest season. So yeah.
You have been traveling over the past couple of months on the East Coast, doing tours, doing lectures, doing series, filming a lot of information. I mean, you're somebody who literally has a dream career that you have carved out a niche for as a full-time paranormal investigator. It's been a tough road. It's been not a financially successful road for you, but nonetheless, you're able to live your dream and your passion and the life that you want to live. Why did you choose this road when you know it's so difficult?
Oh my God. I think it just happened. It was one of those things I never would have thought I would be a full-time ghost hunter. I actually wanted to be a rock star, to be honest with you, singing in rock bands. But I just kind of fell into this. I think when I started a ghost, we were technically the oldest ghost hunting group in the Northwest. And I think a lot of people were craving to learn about the paranormal field. And so once I started a ghost, it just took off like crazy. And just one thing led to another. And here I am. I love it. I wouldn't give it up for anything. Like you said, it is a struggle. You know, I make my money from doing lectures. I make my money from writing books, doing tours for Spooked in Seattle. But I don't make any money doing the ghost hunting.
Why do you choose to take on ghost hunting cases for free?
Well, for one, I feel it affects credibility. A lot of people are going to say, well, he's just doing it for the money. And that's not it at all. And another thing that I feel is really important is when you're going to start charging your potential clients for investigations, one, they're going to want something in return when they're paying funds for this. And you cannot guarantee that in this field. And also, too, why would you want to put yourself in a position where somebody's experiencing true paranormal phenomena, but they can't afford your services? So if you're really in it for the research, why would you, limit yourself on that situation?
No, very true, but I mean, on the flip side, a lot of people will say time is money.
It is, but I really want to focus on the credibility in this field. And I am willing to make those sacrifices to take my own money and put it into this. Because you are dealing with a situation where it is still, people are still questioning the credibility of this. You still have a lot of skepticism when it comes to this. And I just really want to focus on the credibility.
Why is the credibility so important to you?
Well, for one, we're dealing with the fact that I'm trying to validate these experiences that we're having, that people are having. And when you're dealing with a situation where now ghost hunting's become more of an entertainment gimmick rather than real research, we're losing that credibility because now most people are focused on the scare factor. And I just really want to bring the real research back because there is something out there. And I think there is, and I think we're getting to the point where we can try and prove these experiences. We haven't gotten there yet, but I think it's just around the corner, and especially with some of the research I've been doing with the docuseries. And that's what I'm really fighting for, is to bring back that credibility and not just the sensationalism of ghost hunting.
I want to ask you, because for a lot of people out there, they look at this as a side hobby, maybe to get a thrill factor, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if you want to have it, and it's so easy to focus on the negative aspects of the paranormal, because of what television has made it. Okay, but for you, what do you love about this field? I don't think we talk about the love enough, man.
No, I hear you. I love when you have that unique opportunity of experiencing something you can't explain. That is kind of a rush when there's something you had this experience. Now you can't always prove it, but it's nice that you can walk away from a location and say, wow, something happened to me, and that just proves I'm on the right track. There is something to this. So that's a big thing for me. And I think it also is a big thing when you can actually help clients as well, especially when they are so overwhelmed with fear because they watch a lot of these television shows and they get it in their head that they're experiencing the same things that their clients on the television shows are experiencing. And so, of course, a lot of the television shows want to say it's all demonic or, something out to harm them. And that's not always the case. And so you get a lot of clients out there calling us, wanting to figure out what's going on in their home. And when you can eliminate that fear for them and make them comfortable living in their home, even if there is something there. I think that is a good service, a great service that we're doing.
One of my biggest complaints about the paranormal over the years, Ross, is it really seems that most paranormal investigators out there don't have a conclusion. They have no idea what they're trying to solve. They have no idea what they're even investigating. They have no answers to any of the deep questions that we are trying to solve regarding this phenomena. For you, taking this very seriously, and I would say that you're one of the only people on this continent that is actually trying to bring scientific method, true scientific method, to the paranormal. I'm very curious what you are trying to solve purposely. What mystery is it for you?
Well, I think the biggest mystery we have to understand is, what are we truly dealing with? You know, the paranormal field is so diverse, and you have so many different beliefs out there when it comes to ghosts alone. You know, put aside Bigfoot, UFOs, and all that other stuff. You know, ghosts alone, that is a very diverse field, and everybody's got their own labels and identities of what they claim is happening in these locations. But I've always said, if we cannot focus our attention on one particular phenomena, we're not going to get anywhere, because we have to have some sort of route to go by. We have to have a better understanding of what it is that people are experiencing. And so for me, I've always tried to focus my attention on the actual phenomena itself. And it's not just, you know, like Scooby-Doo, you know, spend a couple of nights in a haunted mansion and pull the mask off, you know, the caregiver. But there's something going on there, and we just need to focus our attention. But the biggest problem is, and you even see it on the television shows, they're just all over the place. And that's where we kind of need to narrow ourselves down. And I think you'll see that when we introduce the current project I'm working on.
For sure. For you, I mean, you are somebody who tries to push the boundaries of paranormal investigation, and I think there's very few that are actually doing that. You know, I think when it comes to that, I believe it's you, David Weatherly, David Spinks, to name a couple. I look at what Brandon and Mustafa are doing, the former Ghost Hunters guys. I think they're really pushing the limits as well, trying to figure out what the phenomena is all about. I mean, for many of us, though, Ross, we look at this, and I include myself in that, okay, where we're maybe a little too narrow-minded with the goals of it all. But for people like myself, we really want to know, man, is there life after death, and can we prove it? It's life's ultimate mystery, because for the majority of us out there, you know, death scares us. We all know it's inevitable. Yeah. We all know that one day each and every one of us is going to have an expiry date where we check out, and we don't want it to be this black abyss that we don't know that we're even there. You know, we want to know that there is something well and beyond here. Now, maybe that's too naively thinking, but, you know, how do we start getting to some of these points? Because literally there are tens of thousands of ghost hunters across North America alone, and nobody ever seems to be wanting to bring up the death question.
Well, I think a lot of it is a lot of ghost hunters are misled. And I hate to bring up, you know, television, but media has a big part of that. Media is what steers people's curiosities and beliefs. And so when you're dealing with the fact that you're being led down not the best road in learning about the paranormal, it's one of those things that, you know, we're constantly gonna struggle to reel people back into the reality of what is truly going on when it comes to dealing with ghosts. Because you're right, the biggest question is, what happens when we die? And as you get older, you start to question that more and more. You start to realize you really are not immortal. And so, and I think that's what really scares a lot of people. And I just want to know what is out there, because, you know, you think of it if it's just like a pop of a light bulb, and It's just like you said, the darkness and emptiness, or whatever it is, we don't know, or whatever, your faith is, that steers you in a different way. But it's a really tough question to answer because we don't have the answers.
Well, let me ask you
No,
this. I'm going to ask you something I've never asked you before. What do you think is out there?
I think that there is intelligent energy. There are, I've had enough experiences to know that when I go out there and I ask a question, I can sometimes get an answer to that question. An answer I can't tell you where it came from. So for me, that shows that there is something intelligent. Now, is it ghosts? Is it somebody who had previously lived? It's very possible. There's other theories out there that these are just entities of their own. There's time loops, or, we can go on forever with all the different theories. But I believe there's something out there. And I'm not, as I've said, I'm not one of those ghost hunters that's going to try and convince people that ghosts exist, because really you just have to experience it for yourself. I just hope that through my research, before I expire, that I've at least opened people's minds to what is out there.
What do you want people to know that you've been able to find out so far?
Well, I want them to know that we're not wasting our time, that there is something odd that we can't explain. I think that's the biggest thing. I think hopefully, as I've said, I hope that I can bring some credibility back to this field, because, as you've said, there are thousands and thousands of ghost hunters out there. And when I started my group, we were 1 out of 100, nationally. Now, as you said, there's thousands of them out there. And most of these ghost hunters are either looking to have their own television show, or they're misled in the idea of how to collect evidence.
Is it because it's become a hobby?
I think for a lot of people, but there are people out there that would love to see it become a career. Because if you go down the right path, there could be big money, especially if you get your own television series. I think there's that people are driven towards. The fame and fortune if you have a successful show.
Right. And that's the big thing. I don't think the research is pushing the phenomena. I think the possibility of fame is pushing the phenomena. And that is so ass backwards, in regards to doing things, especially in an unknown pseudoscience of what we're taking on here.
Exactly. And the television shows make it look so easy. The equipment that they use on television shows make it look so easy. You don't need a degree in becoming a ghost hunter. And I think that is one of the big mistakes out there too, is because you don't need any schooling. And you get a lot of people with the lack of education. Again, it's a situation, the blind leading the blind. And so you find yourself with a small group of those who have had the education and training throughout the years or decades, that we're constantly having to shift through the muddy waters of people making up stories, people, making up evidence. And that just makes it a lot harder for those of us that are really trying to do the real research on where to start our foundation, because you've got too much crap out there.
And I can see that, and I can understand that. I mean, it's like swimming through muddy waters for a fish. Somehow the fish knows where to go, but we have no idea how the fish is getting there. I mean, it's amazing to me, Ross, as we try and clear up the waters. How come, in your opinion, there are so few who are actually trying to move this field forward, instead of, look, the weekend warriors who want to be thrill seekers? They're more worried. Let me finish this. They're more worried about going to Waverly Hills or Gettysburg or some famous, paranormal hotspot than they are really about anchoring themselves towards true study.
Well, again, it just all goes to the fact that people are misguided. They're misguided on the entertainment fact of a lot of these television shows. And so there are people out there that I think really want to find answers. I think there's that curiosity in all of them, especially when they go out and they have these encounters. So that curiosity is there. They're just misguided in how to do it correctly. Because as I said, television makes it look so easy. And I think that's one of our biggest problems is there's no one really out there in the forefront guiding people to have a better understanding of what true paranormal phenomena is or what a real investigation is. That's our biggest problem.
Okay, so what is a proper investigation? We got about 4 minutes here.
Well, I can't answer that in 4 minutes, unfortunately. But the biggest thing I've always told people is using the proper equipment and having a controlled experiment. The control is the biggest thing that people don't seem to understand. How to produce a controlled environment. And then two, proper etiquette is another big problem. I've been a guest investigator for a lot of groups, especially because I travel all over. I get a lot of groups, invite me on their investigation, which is great. I love meeting all these groups and seeing what they do. And sometimes I can learn something new from other groups. But the fact is I see too many of these groups when they're trying to do, and I'll use this as an example, an EVP session, electronic voice phenomena, where you're trying to capture voices of the ghosts, but they don't know how to shut up during that experiment. They're chit-chatting away with each other, and they'll stop for a few seconds, ask a question to the ghost, and they'll be, oh, yeah, did you see that episode of Ghost Hunters? And then they start talking again. That is not how you do an EVP session. I'm sorry. And so when you try to submit evidence that you think you got the ghost responding to your question, it's just going to be ruled out because no one could shut up during.
This episode is sponsored by the audiobook edition of The Becoming, the second installment in the Dragonheart Legacy series by best-selling author Nora Roberts. The audiobook, read by narrator Barry Kreinick, spins a captivating tale of love, war, and magic. Start listening to The Becoming by Nora Roberts now.
On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. I mean, that's real. That ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
The whole experiment. So that is one of the biggest problems that we have.
We got about 2 minutes here before we got to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Ross Allison is here from A Ghost down in Seattle. Ross, for you, is the thrill still there? 30 plus years of investigation. Do you still get the goosebumps in going out on a ghost tour, whether it's a location you've investigated hundreds of times or whether it's a brand new location?
Yes, I still loving having the experience. And I think what drives me the most is when you have that unique encounter. And it's like, that's what drives me, is because when I have these unique encounters, I start to realize, wow, unfortunately, that was a personal experience. Now, how do I validate that experience the next time it happens? And so for me, it's always trying to improve myself, to improve the investigation, to improve the experiments, so that when that happens again, we can validate it in some way. So for me, there's the sense of adventure to be able to go into some of these amazing places and have it to yourself, alone in the dark. And then there's having the experiences. When you have those unique experiences, it just gets that adrenaline running, and it also stirs up that curiosity.
See, the only time I've ever investigated with you, or I should say watched you guys investigate, was a few years ago up here at our museum. And I got to tell you, man, watching you and David Weatherly walk around the museum and conduct your business, man, it was pro. It was very, very pro. Like, you guys had your game faces on, man, and it gave me a look that I've never seen of the paranormal before.
And there's that excitement too for me, because you introduced me to a new place that I've never got to investigate before. And even though you've got a video of me screaming, it still is an awesome experience when I had that unique encounter.
Exactly. And that unique encounter was a gentleman up on the stairs who likes to attack people. But that's okay.
Yeah.
We didn't get attacked. We didn't bring anything home, and that's a good thing. When we return from the break at the bottom of the hour, Ross has a brand new book coming out called Parascience with investigator Chad Goodwin, and a new docuseries that is being filmed as we speak called Parasense. This is nothing you have ever seen before when it comes to ghost hunting and paranormal investigation. I can't wait to open up our audience to this when we return with Ross Allison on Spaced Out Radio as we talk ghosts all night long. All right, we're clear.
Cool.
That was a solid first hour, man, or first half hour. Friggin' solid.
No, it's great. You definitely, I like the fact that you always think of new questions, because sometimes I get asked the same thing over and over again. And I don't want to sound like a robot, especially when people, I have my following, checking in every time, and then they hear the same stories every time.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I got interviewed the other night, and that podcast will be coming out on American Thanksgiving. But I am so tired of talking about my experiences.
You need new ones?
No, just like because I've had some pretty unique ones, and you know a few of them. But I'm tired of talking about my experiences. Like, I want to talk about what's happening now. Like, I'm more than just what happened to be, coming up 10 years ago next month. Right?
Right.
And yeah, it's pretty insane. Hey, our listeners, I know a bunch of you are looking into our store right now. We're creating a secondary store here. The reason why is I was having troubles being able to get swag on the one. And so we're just in the process of shipping a bunch of gear over there, but we will be expanding it very, very soon. And then the other store that we have, we're going to be putting, it connects well with YouTube. So there's going to be 2 stores, but that's something that we can worry about here. We are working on it, and we'll get more swag up very, very soon. Sunny or Spooky, thank you so much for that awesome super chat, along with Dirt Road and Smithy kicking it off tonight. Really do appreciate it. The super chat is a fantastic way to support what we do here on Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis. Chad, I'm giving you my email here right now in the chat room. If you want to send me an email, there it is. And look at these, Ross. I know you will respect this, man. I totally know you'll respect this. Hold on. I could see you rocking these. Check this out. Look at this, man.
Oh, those are cool.
I am so
Awesome.
I am so getting a pair of those. So getting a pair of those.
No, that is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, those are going to rock. I'm so getting those.
And I'm assuming that's 64, 66 in Canadian.
I think that's American. I'm not sure. But I do know that they have a US 9, which is my size. Yeah, we're creating a bunch of different type of swag. Like, we got the Woo pillow here. And
That's awesome.
there's the back side of it.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about it. And then I chose these killer jackets here.
See, and the jackets go with the shoes. There you go. You have a whole outfit right there.
Right there.
Yep.
Yeah. How cool is that? That looks
That's
good.
awesome.
I think that looks good. We're gonna get some really cool stuff on there. So just stay tuned. More is going to be added very, very soon, and yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be
Cool.
very cool. Yes. Dirt Road again with another lovely super chat. Thank you so much. My fellow Canadian. By the way, everybody trying to figure out in regards to the mudslides and everything that happened here, the one highway that was open got shut down today by another mudslide. So we are stuck.
No.
We are stuck here again. You know, there's one section of highway. There's one. Hey, Vash the Impaler, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. The Chad Smith Podcast. Welcome. Oli, good to see you. Who else am I missing? 416. Nice to have you here, buddy. Devin from Poetically Mistaken. How are you? And who else am I missing? The Michael Leger, everyone. The Michael Leger. So yeah, like one section of the highway, like 20 miles of it is gone. 20
Wow.
miles of highway got washed out. I don't know if they're ever going to rebuild that. I really don't. All right, we got 20 seconds here. And
So I'm assuming you got all the rain too that we got.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just constant rain for months.
oh yeah, dude. I didn't up here. I got snow.
Oh,
Yeah. Hold on, everyone. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for hanging on out with us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Ross Allison. He is with A Ghost, a great paranormal team out of the beautiful city of Seattle, Washington. He's got Spooked in Seattle, which, by the way, Ross, we just added you on TikTok. So
awesome.
Whoever's running your TikTok, maybe make sure we get that follow back, because we need that. We need that.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm that cheap for follows right now. but that's okay. That's the way it gets done.
Isn't there a corner for that?
Well, if there is, it's a very round corner. Very round corner. My friend, you are someone who likes to advance the field of the paranormal. It's not just about going into buildings, telling history, and, finding out what spirits want to talk. You recently, with Chad Goodwin, have started a docu-series, if that's okay if I call it that, called
Yes.
Parasense. And this is something that is unknown to the paranormal world. And literally, and this is going to sound really crass for people who may not understand it, but it's literally putting people naked into a haunted building. We're going to get into this big time here over the next little bit. First off, though, tell us about Parasense. Where did this concept come from?
Well, what started it was the fact that I had a gentleman contact me from up in Northport, Washington, and he had an experience where he was doing some construction in an old abandoned brothel. And the next thing he knows, when he was alone up there, something fondled him. And so along with that and other personal experiences that he had, they contacted us and wanted to know if we'd be willing to do an investigation. Well, this is not the first time I've heard of encounters where people, or I should say ghosts, get touchy-feely, but it's always been such a personal encounter. And I really started to think, how do you prove those encounters? And I did research. I digged through hundreds and hundreds of books and, throughout the internet, trying to find if anybody had ever tried to prove touch. And to my surprise, no one had. Because I wanted to find some inspiration or something that we could go with to try and validate these experiences. And no one had ever done this. And then I reached out to a lot of the big names out there, and they said, yeah, Ross, no one's ever given us that data. And so I realized, okay, if I'm going to try and tackle this particular phenomena, such as, touch, I really had to narrow it down and figure out exactly how I was going to conduct an experiment. And for me, nudity just made sense. Because if you're going to try and validate touch, for one, you can't limit the space that the ghost may want to touch you, especially in a situation where, with the young man that was groped, he was wearing pants. So you kind of need to see what's happening when something, and I'm not trying to get perverse here, but when something like that happens, you need to see what's happening to the skin, to the muscles. Is there any changes? Because I'll be honest with you, I've had plenty of experiences where I thought I was touched, but you second guess yourself because you think, okay, maybe it was just my shirt, adjusting, or maybe it was my jacket, or it could have been, something else. And you really have to eliminate all those things. But the other thing that people don't realize is the skin is the perfect tool for this type of research, because it is so sensitive, because we are born to feel touch. That's part of our five senses is to be able to feel touch. And so that's just all came down to coming up with all these different experiments. And I put about 6 years into this now. And I continued to, take these subjects into haunted places where physical phenomena had been reported. And then I started to realize, well, we are getting some results, but still the information was still limited. And I really wanted to get beyond that and find out if there was other things that we could do to validate these experiences. And so I reached out to Chad, who I had actually worked with in the past. I had been on his shows because he had actually done some radio shows in the past. And I knew he was a scientist, and I knew he was curious about the field of paranormal research because we had talked about this many, many times. And I just, called him out of the blue, and I said, hey, Chad, I'm working on this project where I'm trying to, prove touch. And I asked him, how would you prove touch? And it just kind of took off from there. And so he joined my team. We rebuilt the Spectre system that I was using for a good, 20 years. And we upgraded it. We did all these amazing things to it, and we started to get results. And that's what kind of got me to where I am now.
The skin is so sensitive to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, one of the biggest organs, if not the biggest organ on our body that everyone has. At what point did you decide that nudity was the only way to really conduct this type of experimentation?
Well, the simple thing is, if you ask yourself that question, how would I prove touch? You have to see what is happening to the body, and you have to make the full body exposed in these situations. So like I said, it just made sense to have somebody naked in a haunted environment, put all the cameras on them, put thermal imaging on them, and see what happens. And that's where I think, if they see the trailer, you'll see what we've accomplished so far.
Well, you know what? Let's play the trailer for our audience. So our radio audience, you'll be able to hear it But for our YouTube audience, what I would suggest is that you'll be able to see it. So if you're on our radio side, you'll have to go to our YouTube channel and really try to...
And I will point out, there is a website, touchedbyaghost.com, and you can see the trailer there as well.
All right. Well, let's play this here for a second here. So just give me a minute here. All right, here we go.
Come in this room. Come touch me.
Touch, one of the 5 senses we can't live without. It helps guide us through our lives. Touch gives us warmth and comfort, as well as pain and suffering. But what about those stories of people getting touched by ghosts and spirits? People getting scratched and molested by something unseen? How is this happening? Is it real or fabricated? And if it is real,
Are you trying to touch me?
what could it mean?
Even though science has yet been able to prove or disprove these strange encounters, through the years of patterns and consistency shows us the phenomena is true.
I think you're on the right path. I think you're at kind of a precipice where you can clearly show that humans have an experience that has an objective piece to it. You're already showing that in the data you're getting, which at the very least should get other scientists interested in looking at that question.
I have a fair share of skepticism. My whole research process is trying to bring in a more scientific basis.
How is he looking thermal?
Just pivot to stand.
People need to understand that this is not just your bells and whistles that you see on ghost hunting shows. This is real science.
Yeah, we're trying to apply real science to this. I'm going to really do my best to try to find information and data that suggests that this is a real thing that we're looking for.
It was here in D Block that changed everything for me and for Nick. Nick, I'm kind of glad I was able to talk you into coming back.
Well, I'm not too happy to be back. I'm ready for it to be over with. Oh my god, dude! What happened?
Hey, you in the corner here touches people. You around here? You little bitch and bugging them. Is that what you're doing? Like it. Neck. It's just got a bunch of pain right here. Yeah.
He scratched.
Really? He scratched me? Oh, I'm red.
At the exact time that I was scratched, looking at the larger data set, you can see anomalies in the PIR and ultrasonic sensors. We can use that data to then create an animation showing what happened in approximate real time. So it looks like whatever it was moved toward me and then away very quickly.
When dealing with the paranormal, you have to be prepared for just about anything when the spirits are truly the ones in charge. The question is, how does the body perceive these experiences? What are the cause and effects of when this happens? And most of all, how do you prove these intimate encounters? For the first time in history, our journey into this untapped realm has only just begun.
That's pretty powerful stuff right there, Ross.
Well, thank you. Like I said, it's been a 6-year long journey, and I really feel that we are collecting some amazing evidence. Like I said, no one's ever done this, so we are making history here. And the fact that, just with the technology that we're bringing to the table, we're getting to the point where we're able to track the phenomena. We can actually see what is happening in the room around the subject, when it comes into the room, when it leaves the room, and all these other things that we're just pushing ourselves towards.
How did you find volunteers to go into these haunted locations nude?
Well, I have to say, it was a lot easier to find the guys. Women was more challenging, which I can understand. It might be very intimidating for a woman to be asked by a bunch of guys to say, hey, will you get naked for us in front of the camera? But it was actually not as hard to find.
On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. I mean, that's real. There ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
At Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.
A few of the guys willing to just sit in a haunted place alone in the dark.
Okay, so why the difference between...
Why, Dave, are you offering?
No, man. You need a wide-angle lens to get my fat butt on camera. That's all I'll say. But why was it so much tougher to get women?
Well, like I said, it was a situation where I think it was intimidating for a woman to be approached by a bunch of guys, especially when, we deal with a society where women have been manipulated in the past or tricked into doing some, pretty risque things for cheap thrills, for a lot of guys. And I really wanted to try and build a comfortable environment. And I was always very open and honest with the females that we were able to get to do this. And I always try to make sure I have a female on the property around them so they'll feel a little more comfortable. So it is a challenge. Like I said, I think they're just intimidated to be around a bunch of guys.
Okay, so the fact is, how many volunteers did you actually have for this to actually go into these haunted locations and sit there naked?
Well, in the 6 years that we've done this, I've had about 40 guys and I think about 4 women. So yeah, that's what we've come up with so far. But I think once word gets out and they realize that we are doing real research, and people put the perversions aside, that this is for science. I think a lot more people are going to come forward because I think they just need to see the research that's being done.
Okay. So, I mean, considering I want to go down this road because it is a sensitive subject for a lot of people. And I'm looking at a lot of the ladies in our chat room and they're all like, nope, not me. Maybe in pajamas,
exactly.
But naked, not a chance. What were you hoping to get not only from women but men regarding this phenomena?
Well, obviously, you're hoping to get touched. You're hoping that these subjects will have these experiences and the equipment around them will be able to validate that experience. That is our main goal.
There is a chance, though, that if you put them in the wrong situation, that something ominous may happen, whether it's male or female, regarding any type of, sexual harassment.
Well, in a lot of cases, it's not always about sex. Yeah, when you go into a brothel and you strip a guy naked and you put him in the brothel, you're hoping that the ladies of the night that still haunt the location may get a little touchy-feely. So you definitely want to put yourself in the situation where you're going to trigger that phenomena. I would never put anybody in a situation where I feel that any real harm could come to them. So that's always something I've made very clear. And I've always made it clear when the subject is sitting there alone in the dark, that if they want to call it quits on the experiment, they have the power to do that. I am not forcing them to do this. So that is another big thing that we make clear with our subjects.
Okay, so do these people who decide that they want to be a part of the scientific experiment and decide to, get right down to their birthday suit, do they have to sign a waiver or something along those lines?
Of course, especially because you are filming them to document the encounter that you're hoping that they will have. And then plus, the biggest thing that we're lacking in this field is publishing the research. And that is what we're trying to do. We are trying to publish the research that people can see the results from these experiments that we come up with.
Ross Allison is here. Parasense is his new identity. So let's go back 6 years ago when you came up to the idea of doing this phenomena where is, people getting right down to their underwear or less regarding parasense and the art of spirits touching those people. What were you expecting from this?
Well, I didn't expect it to get as far as it has. Like I said, it is still a challenge, and that's the challenge I've decided to face. And it may, we may have better ideas a year from now, maybe, 10 years from now, we may have an idea of what is actually occurring when people have these experiences. But that's the thing is, it's a growing experience. As we add more technology and come up with different experiments, the audience gets to watch the science grow, the experiments grow, and the experiences that these subjects have. So, there's no answer right now. There's not enough data for, yes, we can prove ghosts. We are at the point, we're at a groundbreaking point where we can show something is happening. The data is proving that there is some sort of encounter. And I think that is the most important part in what we're doing here. We have to continue to do these experiments. We have to continue to, collect the data. And hopefully, as I said, if we focus on this one phenomena, we may have answers 5 to 10 years from now.
What kind of results were you getting, and how did they differ from someone who was, say, wearing clothing compared to those who were nude?
Well, when I started these experiments, I didn't do a lot of experiments with clothed subjects. It was just getting down to nitty gritty. Because again, I didn't want to limit the situation or the experiment, because if somebody does get touched when they are wearing clothes and it's, on their back or, it's through their jeans or anything like that, you can't prove that. And there's far too much that's going to, skeptics will say, well, again, even when you question yourselves when you're touched, when you're wearing clothes, was it just the clothing? And so that proves nothing. And so that is one of the things you just have to eliminate, that element. And I've thought about doing some experiments now that we have enough data with clothes or without clothes. Maybe we should try some data with clothes. But again, it's going to be too much against that experience.
Okay, what is the purpose of it, though? I'm trying to figure out, without sounding too crass, what the idea behind this experimentation is.
What do you mean?
Well, just in regards to, I understand the purpose of it, to try and see how a spirit reacts to somebody without clothing. And I get that, right. Because it's never been done before. And it's not, for people just tuning in, it's not about perversion or porn or anything about like that. It's about trying to see the differences on how the body reacts. And I get that. But how does this help expand the paranormal realm in the field scientifically?
Well, again, it's data that's never been collected before. And even Lloyd Auerbach, who's been in this field for, a good, 40, close to 50 years, he actually validated our research. He's a parapsychologist. And he was even impressed by what we're doing, because he said, this is data that has never been collected. So we have no idea how the body interacts when they're having that sort of paranormal experience. So that was important to me, because now here we are collecting new data. And again, it's a situation where if we can have a better understanding of what is happening when people have a paranormal encounter, this could lead us to a better understanding to all different types of paranormal phenomena. Like I said, we need a root. We have to have a better understanding of what is happening out there. And by focusing our attention on just touch, this right there could be that root.
I get that, and I can totally understand that. We got about 1 minute to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Ross Allison is our guest tonight. Ross, you're somebody who likes to push the limits with everything, and when it comes to the whole nudity aspect of everything, I'm wondering, were the senses that people were getting touched different compared to those who were wearing clothing?
Well, I think in most cases it's been described to be the same, but there's more of an experience when people are naked, to where they'll experience the sensations a lot more than somebody who was actually wearing clothes. Like you even said, the skin is the biggest organ of the body, and so it is more sensitive and when it's more exposed. So you do have better results from those who are naked than those who are clothed. Because again, clothing is still limiting yourself, your body's senses.
Very true. I'm going to get you to hold on right there. And when we come back from the top of the hour, we're going to be talking about parasense more with paranormal investigator and man who moves the mountains when it comes to ghost hunting. Ross Allison from A Ghost down in Seattle, Washington. And parasense. We're going to learn more about it when we return for hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear. Funky, man. Funky.
Well, like I said, no one's doing this. So we're the first. And that's another challenge as well, when you realize that you're the one paving the road for a lot of this.
Oh, yeah. I hear you. I want to save that, though. For when we come back on the air. Because this is a topic that does make a lot of people uncomfortable. It really does. Yeah. And I think it's cool. I think it's really, really cool. That was a great trailer. I'm so glad we played that. All right. Clam's got the password in. Right on, Clam. Thank you. Have you got your tour going back on?
Yeah, tours are happening.
And back on the Navy ship?
Yes.
Right on.
We didn't do it while I was gone, but yeah, once I'm back now, that they'll be happening again.
Right. Now, which ship was that again?
USS Turner Joy.
Yeah. That was the ship involved at the beginning of the Vietnam War.
Yeah, it's the ship that fired the first shot and fired the last shot that ended the war.
Wow. That's a famous ship, man.
Yeah. And it's a huge honor to have the opportunity to investigate it.
Now, is it in a museum or is it just at a dry dock?
No, it is a museum. So
it's a floating museum.
Yeah. So it's a floating museum, so you can go out and, check it out yourself, walk around the ship.
You get a lot of action there?
Oh, yeah. No, it's a great place. Enough that we do a monthly ghost hunt, and most times people walk away with some interesting experiences.
I want to try that, man.
And I always say most times because you can't always guarantee paranormal activity to happen every time.
No, I understand that. I do want to try that, though. Next year is going to be a wealth of travel for SOR. I can feel it.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
I miss traveling. Every year I used to visit 2 different countries, and I haven't been able to do that for the past couple of years.
Where do you want to investigate?
Oh, it's hard to say. It depends on where I'm at. I've had the opportunity to investigate some amazing places all over the world, castles, old churches, caves. I think there are some places like the catacombs in Paris would be kind of cool.
That freaked me out.
Even though I got to walk around there alone, I still didn't have a lot of my ghost hunting equipment, so it was still very limited. And it was part of a tour. And I got to be alone because I just kind of laid back, while everybody was off exploring, and I just kind of sat in a couple areas all by myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I still would love to, if money was no object, I'd love to get a motorhome and grab you and David Weatherly for people who are listening, and literally just take that motorhome right across British Columbia and Western Canada, man.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
Blow your minds at some of the
I
stuff.
love it.
I would love to do that. I mean, I know I've said it almost every time you've been on the show, but this is such an untapped area. It really is. And there's not many people up here using their imaginations on everything, People want to lock down all the hot spots, but they don't realize that the best stories are the ones that are unknown right now.
Exactly. There's still a lot of places that don't get a lot of attention for being haunted.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Skip to Malou, how you doing? Oh, yeah, dude. That would be a lot of fun. We got about 90 seconds. I just want to get you back up here and take you to the crash site.
No, that'd be cool.
I would love to do that place at night. It would scare the living daylights out of me. Daytime is even creepy in there. But nighttime, I would love to do that place at nighttime. Because I want to see how the action is different, because the crash took place at night.
Gotcha.
And I want to see if it would be any different. That's my opinion. Oh, look who's here, everyone. Merle it up, people. Merly bird gets the worm. If you're into drinking Merlot, there he is. All right. Hey, Merle, how you doing, buddy? He was in a movie, watching a movie, so he couldn't join us. The movie was more important.
Yeah. I see how it is. I see where we stand.
All right, a big thank you so far to Rex, Dirt Road ×2, Spooky, and Smithy for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis, so thank you so much for everybody who has donated. Thank you to all our new subscribers who are tuning us in. Don't forget to ring the bell, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Here's hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Malapert. Malapert is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, Read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok, now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight talking parasense. Ross Allison is here. He's a longtime paranormal investigator out of beautiful Seattle, Washington, and he's got a great new docuseries about to come out called Parasense. How does the body react to touch from spirits? Ross, welcome back.
Always great to be here.
Absolutely. So right before the break, if people are missing, you're definitely going to want to check the archives to understand what we're talking about tonight in regards to paranormal investigation in the nude. Because there is a sense that the body can react differently. This is science in the paranormal field that has never been done before. Ross, I'm sure you are going to take a lot of harassment and chastising from a lot of paranormal investigators out there. Are you prepared for that?
Well, I'd be kind of curious as to why, because if you think about it, if you were given the challenge to prove touch, wouldn't you be doing the same thing? You know, I guess I was just the first to think of it. And so, yeah, if people want to question what we're doing, I'm open to it. In fact, as we start to work more on our website, we actually want to put the full experiments on the website so you can actually see the experiment from the beginning to the end. So, you know, we're not making this stuff up. We're going to be putting all the data that we collect online so you can see it from the beginning to the end as well. So we have nothing to hide. And I just hope that people in the paranormal world will be open to it because, again, we're trying to help everybody have a better understanding as to what is happening out there.
All right. Uncle Dale and his power stash both have Bachelors of Science degrees. I think his mustache may have a master's, actually. He is asking, why couldn't spirits reach through clothing? After all, they are incorporeal.
And they do. That has been the one of the phenomena that people have reported. Like when I talked about that gentleman who got groped in the brothel, he was wearing clothes. And so it does happen. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that it makes it harder to prove when you have something blocking the data that you need to validate those experiences.
On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. I mean, that's real. There ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
When getting the job done right is job one, you need construction equipment that's built right. From compact track loaders to the world's #1 selling compact excavator, the Kubota construction lineup features durable Kubota engines, more comfort, and the versatility to do it all and do it right. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Lee Tractor Company. On the web at leetractor.net.
Okay. I've been touched before by ghosts. I've been touched on the wrist once, very lightly, and I've been pinched on the collarbone. Those are my only two ever experiences when it comes to physical contact with a spirit. I know somebody like Merle.
Well, here's my question, though.
Yeah.
You've had those experiences, but who's to say you could have had more if you didn't have any clothes on?
True.
Who's to say that they didn't put their hand on your back, but you didn't feel it because you're wearing a jacket? You know, who's to say that they didn't run their hand down your arm, but you didn't feel it because you were wearing a long sleeve shirt? So there are a lot of things that we could be experiencing that we're just not aware of.
All right. Well, let's go to Uncle Dale's question here. Again, he goes, how does clothing prevent the validation of a spirit's touch then?
Because, again, you'd want to see what is exactly happening when that contact is made. Is there some sort of pressure on the skin? Is there any movement with the muscles? Is there a temperature change? That's why we use thermal. So those are some of the things that we want to hopefully validate those encounters. And you can't see that, through clothes.
Very true. I can see that, and I can and I can appreciate that. But getting back to the whole touching aspect of everything, I know somebody like Merle, for instance, our good buddy from Paranormal Road Trippers, and I know he's listening in. Hi, Merle. Merle. Anyways, he's the type of guy where literally I've been on investigations with him, and I've seen him get punched. I've seen him get shoved. I've seen him, get pinched, get touched, everything to go along with that. Doesn't it fall on the person to know whether or not they are the conduit over the spirit being the conduit of the touching?
Well, again, that's data that's never been collected. So we need to start somewhere. And by making these individuals a subject and putting them in that situation, hopefully you can collect the data to figure out what is going on. There is, theories out there that maybe we produce the phenomena ourselves. Well, if that's the case, is there any data that we can collect to validate that?
All right, Uncle Dale again. Let's expand the experiment to include people wearing clothing with silver threads.
Hey, I'm all for it. Like I said, this is all data that's never been collected before. So we are just at the very beginning of this. So we're going to be I've got hundreds of experiments that I want to do. So follow us and see what happens.
What do you think the outcome is? What's the hypothesis?
Well, like I said, I think, once we start to get more and more data after doing a lot of these experiments, I think what will happen is, I keep saying it, hopefully we'll have a better understanding of what is truly out there. And I've questioned this myself. Is it psychic phenomena? Is it, psychological? Or is it truly ghosts trying to reach out and make contact with us?
What would attract a ghost to human skin?
Well, that's one of the things we are constantly trying with the different experiments. We're not sure. I think it depends on the ghost. I think it depends on the situation, the location. Like I said, if you put a naked guy in a brothel, I'm sure some of these ladies might still be trying to do their job. I think the situation could be very different if you stick a naked woman in a prison, a men's prison. It's all different types of scenarios. And and one of the things, the biggest challenge in this field is, again, being at the right place at the right time. So even though we go to a haunted prison that's notorious for lots of touchy-feely stuff, you may not get nothing there because you just aren't doing the right experiment or being at the right place at the right time. That's the biggest challenge that we have in this field, is also we're still exploring a lot of this stuff. When you are the person paving the road in this, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. And science is exactly the same thing, all trial and error.
Like Kira is asking, energy frequency attracts ghosts.
That's true too.
Does it matter on location?
As to the energy?
Yes.
Well, of course. When you're doing an investigation, you want to make sure you pick the right location. And so when I set up these experiments, I'm always looking for places where, yes, there has been lots of cases of touching in various different ways, or physical contact is the main thing I'm looking for.
Uncle Dale is asking, do you have a control group of some sort? Is it a mixed group of clothed and naked folks?
Well, like I said, I haven't done a lot of experiments with clothed folks, so I think we are open to trying those different experiments.
Okay. And Flippity is asking, do you have a clothed bait person there with a naked bait person?
Now, I did do a couple experiments where I had a naked person sitting in front of a clothed person. And of course, the naked person was having the experiences as the person who was clothed had none.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, why naked? Why not, like for a woman, a bra and panties, or a man, underwear, boxer shorts, or whatever? Why fully stock naked?
Because you don't know where the ghost is going to touch you. That's up to the ghost where they want to touch you. And I wouldn't want to put myself in a situation where I'm limiting the possibilities.
I get that. I mean, it just makes sense, Ross. I mean, it may
And
be.
that's what I'm hoping everybody else will see, you know? I realize this has never been done before. We're the first to come out and say this, folks. Hey, we're doing naked experiments. We're trying to prove touch. And like I said, I hope people will step back and realize, wow, I guess if I was up to that challenge to prove touch, I would be doing the exact same thing they're doing.
Do you think it's a line of potential perversion from the spirit side?
In some cases, like I said, from the locations that you're going into for a brothel where sex is the element that mainly ran that location, then yeah, you're probably dealing with a situation where the ghost may be more sexual with the subject. If you're going into a situation where it's a hospital, then it may be a situation where it's trying to take care of you. It could be the ghost of a doctor, and it wants to, make sure treat you as a patient. So it's when it comes to touch, it's not always negative. And I think that's where people are being misled too, because media has really pushed the negative aspect of paranormal phenomena. And touch can easily be a loving caress, a kiss on the cheek, a squeezing of your hand, like trying to hold your hand. So I think, again, it just depends on the location.
I'm going to turn Pam's comment here into a question. And it says, sounds like you're looking to arouse the ghost with the physical appearance. Is that a possibility here?
True. You're using the body as a trigger as well. So in some cases, maybe the ghost may be enticed to make an advance that's more sexual. That's very possible.
All right. Beth is asking, why would you want to put yourself in a possible sexual situation with a spirit?
Well, that's a situation that is up to the subject. When we put the subjects in these environments, they know what they're getting into. And so if they are okay with being fondled by a ghost, then that's fine. That gives us the opportunity to collect that data. But again, it's not always sexual.
We've had Patty Negri on the show a couple of times, and we have talked about this topic of ghost sex. And we even brought it up last week with Varla Ventura when we were talking about, a lot of people claim to have had sexual intercourse with spirits. Now, I don't know if I believe this or not, but hey, to each their own with what they've experienced. And if that's their experience, that's their experience. Who am I to judge? I've seen some weird crap in my life. All right. But what happens if all of a sudden something promiscuous does happen? I mean, a person really can't stop a ghost by saying, no, don't touch me there, or no, I really don't want to do that, or my goodness, that's kind of uncomfortable.
Well, also too, as they're sitting alone in the room, they are being monitored. So we are a good, 3 or 4 rooms, down the hall, watching them from a monitor. So if there is ever a situation where I feel that the subject is in danger, we're right there to help them.
Right. I get that. And I can see that. Okay. How do you help them in that situation though?
Well, I'd pull them out of the room. If that's the case, if something is attacking them, then I would pull them out of the room.
That's simple. Eva is asking.
I would think so.
You hope. All right. Eve is asking, do women get touched more than men?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think in this situation, again, we're just starting in this field. So I would probably say there's probably more cases of women that I know of that have been documented. And I think women tend to be a little more sensitive to that because they tend to be more of the sensitive creatures in mankind. And then men, maybe, men just don't like to talk about it. I don't know. It's a tough one. And I think in our research now, if we could get more women, we'd have a better understanding when it comes to that, answering that question.
Midnight Rider wants to ask, did you notice the EM fields changing when people were touched?
We have been recording that, and we are starting to notice some changes with that. Yes.
Okay. What other changes were you noticing from the gear and the experimentation you were doing?
Well, I kind of wish Chad was here to cover that question, because we are just getting Spectre out there for everybody to see the different kind of sensors that he has installed in the system. So I would have to say I would leave that question for Chad.
All right. Black Dragon, one of our favorite veterans who's tuned in to this show on a nightly basis. Ever think about how ghosts can touch the living?
Yeah. And again, that's what we're trying to figure out. What is occurring? Are we even using the right sensors? And in some cases, we are getting something at the moment. Something is registering at the moment of touch for a few of the subjects. And that's one of the most baffling things in this field, is because you could have a subject feeling they're being touched and nothing registers. But then you could have a number of different other subjects have that same feeling and something registers. So are we dealing with different types of energy? We're not sure. And that's where more data is really important to have a better understanding of that.
Ross Allison is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Parasense is what we are talking about, his new docuseries about humans going naked in a paranormal investigation. How can the ghost touch? I think it's fascinating. I really do. I mean, and it is a little mind-blowing once. You really, as humans, have to get over the whole connotation of being naked. That's a real North American thing where we're still get embarrassed by this.
Well, I don't know about that, because if you look, you got Naked and Afraid that's been on television for, 13, 14 years now. So I think we're kind of used to it.
Well, maybe. Did in the places where you were filming for this, did activity increase the minute clothing came off?
I think that's when we're paying attention. Once the clothing comes off, that's when the equipment's all running. We're all sitting back and we're watching from the monitors what's happening. So Spectre system is constantly running in the room so that we can actually have a baseline as well to compare it to. And you need that for a more scientific understanding. So the equipment is always running. And that's also to help us to see if there are changes in the environment when we're not around, when the experiment's not running. So I would have to say, to be honest with you, once the clothes come off, we're all paying attention to what's going on, even the subjects paying attention. So is activity happening all around us? Yes. We collect things outside of the experiments. We'll capture EVPs as well during the experiments. We'll capture phenomena of doors shutting or strange sounds happening around the subject, things being thrown at the subject. So things are happening outside of just trying to prove touch.
Lunar Eclipse Paranormal is asking, Why not tell them to touch your arm that's free of clothing? They can hear you.
But they may not want to touch you on your arm. I just think we need more of a playing field to collect more data. And so just putting your arm out there, it's still limiting.
All right. I'm going to post this as just reaction. Pam, who's here every night, she says it may be a groundbreaking discovery, but it's still wrong, completely nude.
Why is it wrong? That's my question, is why would you think it was wrong? Nude experiments have been done in various different things throughout science. Just to prove touch alone, from another physical being to another, that required nudity. So I don't understand why anybody would ever think it was wrong.
Probably because, and I'm just throwing this out there.
And I think it's because we're taught that nudity is wrong, that we're not allowed to be naked in front of other people's eyes. And so that's where people get that idea.
Gotcha. Okay. Are there places where you would not conduct this type of experimentation?
If there are children ghosts. If anybody has told me that there are spirits of children touching people, I will not do an experiment there. Because then I feel people would take it to a perverse level. And we are not trying to do this in a perverse way at all.
That makes sense. Why do you think there's going to be hesitancy as we got about 45 seconds, considering there's naked artistry, there's naked and afraid television,
there's naked dating shows out there.
Very true.
I mean, it's been a huge thing, and these shows have been hugely successful. So I don't see a negative in it.
Yeah, I'm just.
But it may not be everybody's cup of tea. But the fact of the matter is, all we're trying to do is collect data to validate one particular phenomena.
I get you there. Ross, I'm going to get you to hold on because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Ross Allison is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio talking Parasense. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the year of paranormal that it was for Ross, because coming out of COVID, finally allowed to investigate again. We're going into investigations here on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right. There we go. There we go. Stirring the hornet's nest here, man. It's awesome.
Well, I don't mean to. I just, like I said, it's just the sad fact is, yeah, there are people that feel nudity is such a private thing. And, nudity is just a thing that we all are, And I think, that society has taught us that nudity is wrong. But if you go to European countries, it's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think people want to sexualize it or want to bring shame to it. And I think, we're getting to that point where,
hold on one second.
A lot of people don't care.
Hold on one second. Raul, Julia, if you make a comment like that again, I'm going to ban you again, okay? You're starting to piss me off. Because I know what you're doing. I don't need to explain myself. I know what you're doing right now. And I know what you're trying to get into. Don't piss me off again, otherwise you're gone again. All right? Sorry.
All right.
Alex Kuhn, how you doing? Don't play innocent, Raul. I know what you're doing. Like I said, I come to Ontario, man. Find some ice. Hey, Carfanibre, how you doing? I love the topic, Ross. I do.
This episode is sponsored by the audiobook edition of The Becoming, the second installment in the Dragonheart Legacy series by best-selling author Nora Roberts. The audiobook, read by narrator Barry Kreinick, spins a captivating tale of love, war, and magic. Start listening to The Becoming by Nora Roberts now.
On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. I mean, that's real. That ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
I know.
Hey, no, I think this is great because sometimes when it is more challenging, it prepares me for what to expect in the near future. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect people to challenge me, and that's great, you know. But I hope that they're not thinking I'm going to have all the answers because we're still exploring this.
Well, I think part of the biggest problem that we have right now, and I will say it, okay, is I think this I'm offended crowd out there who wants to get offended over everything thinks that it's going to be a bunch of perverts just wanting to film naked people during a ghost experiment and hide behind a ghost experiment. That's what I see happening. And let's face it, the I'm offended crowd they're going to bitch at it, plain and simple.
You know, and all I can do is continue to do the research, continue to publish the data, and show them that there is something to this. There is meaning here. You know, if you want to do naked ghost hunting, then just strip naked and run around with an EMF detector. That's not a controlled experiment. We are producing controlled experiments, you know.
Pam, you're reading it all wrong. He is doing it tastefully. That's why when women are naked, okay, there are other women present. It's not just a bunch of dicks running around trying to, get excited. It's not about that at all. This is a very scientific experimentation that they are doing with real scientists behind it. So to classify that they're not doing it tastefully, that's completely wrong. And I'm not trying to be defensive, but I think you and other people are reading a little bit wrong into this completely. So they are doing it tastefully. Don't make the accusation. It's not fair.
I always tell people, watch it for yourself. When it comes out, watch it for yourself. Give it a chance.
Absolutely. Jenny, the people don't need to have their identities blocked because they've already signed on to do it. Dale, there are scientists involved, so you can't sit there and say without being there that it's not scientific at all. You aren't in the controlled environment that they've created. Sorry, guys, I'm going to be very defensive towards Ross because I know him personally and I know what's going on. I love the comments, but we got to think of the bigger picture here.
And there is a real scientist involved in this.
Beth, why would pedophiles be attracted if he just stated that there's no children involved? All right, here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We are also new to TikTok at Spaced Out Radio, so check us out and follow us there as well. We are talking paranormal with Ross Allison from A Ghost down at the beautiful Emerald City of Seattle, Washington. And we're going to get into some ghost stories here. Ross, you know, coming off of 2020 with COVID being the way it was, shutting everything down, you had to shut down your Haunted or Spooked in Seattle Museum. You had to shut down your ghost tour, but things are starting to open up again for everything. You know, I'm curious, how has 2021 changed in the view of what you do for a living?
It's still been kind of a soft and slow opening for us, to be honest. We're not where we were before COVID. So there's still a lot of recovery. There's still a lot of catch-up time to get involved. So still a lot of healing as well. So I still keep trucking along. It's given me the opportunity to write more books. I got quite a few books that I'm working on with David Weatherly, and a book that I'm working with Chad Goodwin as well.
Yeah, I understand how it affected you, but are people still coming out of this now like, my God, your tour is back. I've wanted to take this tour for a long time, man.
Yes and no, because still we're dealing with the fact that we don't bring in the numbers that we used to bring in, because not a lot of people still want to be out in the public. So there's still a lot of that happening. So it's I think it'll take us in probably another year before things get back to normal, but we're out there, we're doing our tours, we're doing everything we can to protect ourselves as tour guides and protect also our customers. So when it comes to Spooked in Seattle, we're slowly trucking along, but it's getting there.
Have the ghosts been more active since coming back, considering that they've had a long time not to perform, or maybe even got lonely? I mean, because I noticed that on our tour that we did up here, if like, say, for instance, going back to 2017, when we had the forest fires, the tour, when we weren't there, or pardon me, when we came back, was a hell of a lot more active than previous to being there. It was almost like the ghosts there were excited to see us and excited to come out and join us.
Yeah. In fact, I found that when we started our investigations back up through Spooked in Seattle, the public investigations, that people were walking away with a lot more evidence. So, you know, if you think about it, if you're, you know, a ghost and you go through this long period of no attention, and then all of a sudden you're getting that attention again, yeah, I think very well that stirs up a lot more activity.
What's been your best results of 2021?
To be honest, I think a lot of it is still going into the documentary with Parasense. You know, we've gotten some really great experiences, especially when you conduct a controlled experiment. And we look everybody over, you know, we follow them with the camera, make sure everything, that there's no marks on them, no scratches, or any marks that they could identify as being caused by paranormal. So you look the subject over, you look their body over, make sure there's no marks or scratches. You even ask them the control questions, you know, are you feeling any, you know, burning or itching sensations? And, you know, they'll tell us. Then they do the experiments. And lo and behold, during one of those controlled experiments, one of our subjects actually came back after the experiment with a scratch on them. And so we watched this happen in a controlled experiment. And it actually was a very emotional experience for me, because I've heard a lot of people tell me that they've been scratched. And it's one of those things that you really can't prove that. But, of course, you want to give that individual the credibility of when they claim that they've been scratched. And now here's a situation where I looked the subject over. We know that there was no scratches on him. And then right after the experiment, we looked him over again, and there is this bleeding scratch on that individual. And there was nothing during the experiment, because they're sitting there perfectly still, and there's nothing to scratch them. And yet here's this bleeding scratch on them. So for me to experience that personally was very emotional.
Why did it bring emotion out of you?
Because it's just one of those things that I feel I'm on the right track in what I'm doing in validating these encounters. So to actually witness that and not question that at all, because every time, when I have that kind of experience, I'm always questioning myself. Like I said, when I felt that I've been touched, I questioned, was it just my shirt settling, or was it my jacket? Or when I felt like I felt a push, it's just like, was it just, my balance was off or something like that as I was walking. You always question yourself, because you can't always just label everything paranormal, especially when you don't have the data to back it up. So it just becomes a personal experience. And that's one of the biggest challenges we have with Parasense is, we're trying to validate these personal experiences. And so to see a subject with no scratches sit down in a chair, and then when they get up from the chair, there's a bleeding scratch on them. That for me was like, wow, I'm really proving something here, because I think for the first time in history, a scratch has been documented.
When people get attacked, is there usually a reason for that incident happening? And when I say attacked, I'm not saying it doesn't have to be in a malicious way. I'm just saying, even say tapped on the arm or hair tugged, not pulled, tugged.
Mm-hmm.
Have we been able to figure out why that happens yet?
No. You never know why one individual out of a group will be targeted. It could be, we could assume maybe they're attracted to that person. Maybe that person reminds them of somebody, or maybe they were just the closest to the ghost itself. So you never know exactly why the ghost targets an individual until we can sit down and communicate with the ghost like we're communicating right now. It's always going to be, second guessing.
Ross, I'm wondering if it has almost something similar to UFO experiencers or ET contact experiencers, where some people just seem to have this I like to make fun of it and call it the Kmart blue light special going off, where back in the day, for those who are old enough to remember Kmart, where they used to, take, if they had a sale on something, they'd bring a big blue light out, like a police light, and you'd have to find it, and, they'd have it on for a short period of time. So I'm wondering if people are like that, much in the paranormal as they are with ET contact, because you could have a group of 20 people experience ET contact, and 19 of them don't have anything happening, and
Right.
one does. And it's almost the same as the paranormal.
Well, there are theories that, of course, those who may be a little more sensitive, those who are more psychic, do tend to draw the phenomena itself. So that very well could be part of it.
Are there similarities?
I don't know if there's similarities. I honestly have not done enough research in the UFO field to see exactly what's going on. But I think with the data that we're collecting, it may help the UFO field. Because again, there's that root.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And that's quite plausibly it. I mean, because there are a lot of people, including your friend and my friend, David Weatherly, who believes, and I strongly believe this too, that all of the phenomena are tied together.
It's very possible.
So that means if that is possible and that is what's going on, then we're relatively easy to see that maybe what's happening with ET contactees is also the same phenomena that is happening to people who are experiencing any type of physical touch, or, no matter how good or bad it is, from any ghost or spirit.
Right. We all need that data to have a better understanding of what's going on. And that's what we're trying to do. If you want to apply that data to your own personal beliefs or theories out there, then we welcome it, because it may give us a better understanding of what could be going on. Maybe you're right. Maybe they all tie in together. But we have to have that understanding. We need that data. And that is what we're trying to do.
Okay. Is there the equipment to record it?
Yes. And we're constantly updating that equipment. So when we've put together the Spectre system, we have put in various different sensors that have never been used in the paranormal field, sensors that are extremely sensitive. And we are putting those sensors around the subject. So we're also not only collecting data of these possible phenomena happening, but we're also the first to track the phenomena, because we have so many sensors around the subject. We can see where it comes from, what sensor is going off, and where it's going.
Okay, so explain to our audience, and I don't talk a lot about gear usually, because a lot of people out there will not understand it. But what type of equipment are you using to register the phenomena?
Like I said, it's just a bunch of different sensors put into one unit. So we have 4 different units that surround the subject. And those sensors are what we're using to track the phenomena when it happens.
On the subject, are you using any type of heart rate monitors or anything along those lines too?
We have in the past. We've monitored brainwave activity. We've monitored heart rate activity as well with some of my experiments. But we want to advance it. We're actually looking to add more to that. Like I said, this is just scratching the surface here. No pun intended there. We are actually advancing the field so much just by what we've done so far. And with all the ideas that me and Chad have, we're going to be going even further with a lot of this research.
How does the equipment work when it comes to paranormal investigation? So take a piece of gear that we may not know, and how does it work?
Well, like I said, it's just all these different sensors, and it depends on which a sensor is. If you put an EMF sensor in there, anytime any paranormal phenomena gets close to it, it's going to set off a spike in the readings. So we can actually see the numbers. If you watched our trailer, you'll actually see the numbers, what the difference is when you're dealing with a controlled experiment and when there's a change around the subject. So you can actually see the data change. So that shows us that there was something there, something happened, something interfered with the environment. And like I've always told people, there's no such thing as a ghost meter that's going to tell you, yes, there's a ghost standing right next to you. What we're doing, and the best that we can do, is take a bunch of different sensors that read the environment in many different ways. And so now, with all these different sensors, we can see exactly what combination is happening to interrupt the data, to show that there is a spike here, that something is happening.
Have we come close to developing that piece of equipment that can tell when a spirit is entering the area?
I think with the data that we're collecting, we're having a better understanding. But again, we don't know what a ghost is made of. So we can't tell you, was that a ghost? That's where we need that data. That's where we need that better understanding of what is happening when people have these experiences. Because if we have that data and we can see that this, this sensor and this sensor and this sensor are showing up every time when somebody says they're being touched, wow, maybe that's what a ghost is made of.
Okay, so let me ask you your definition of what is a ghost then.
Well, if you're going with popular belief, a ghost is the spirit or soul of an individual that has passed. But, if you're trying to be more scientific about it, it's some form of energy. It's an energy that, seems to disrupt the environment in many ways than one.
Oh, I have so many questions for you.
I'm sure you do.
So many questions.
I wish Chad was here because he's our scientist, and I'm sure he would love this.
No,
he would love to have these topics with discussions with you.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time since Chad was on this show. I think it's been about a year and a half, 2 years, and it's definitely time to bring him back on to talk about some of this scientific side of the paranormal, because I don't think a lot of people, including myself, really fully understand how technical it's becoming.
Well, that's the thing, is no one's really been doing it. No one's really, when you look at a lot of these ghost hunting shows, they're not really being scientific in their approach. They're so dependent on suggestive devices or their EMF detector to go off. Well, a blip on the EMF field does not prove a ghost. You have to have more data than just that one little blip. And so you got to have so much more. And that's where I find that the ghost hunting field has gotten so lazy and so dependent on suggestive evidence that, and the lack of training, they don't know how to be scientific because the shows aren't being scientific. So that's another big challenge we have ahead of us, is we have to open this door of science to a community that enjoys ghost stories and help them understand what is really happening and what we are actually trying to prove. Because when you're dealing with a believer in ghosts, you really don't need the proof. But what we're trying to confront, the skepticism in this field, now we need the proof. We need that data.
Isn't it thinning it out, though? Like taking all the evidence that you have got or collected or the experimentation that you're doing, isn't it thinning out the process a little too thin and going into different areas? I'm not asking this properly, and I apologize.
On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. That's real. There ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
When getting the job done right is job one, you need construction equipment that's built right. From compact track loaders to the world's #1 selling compact excavator, the Kubota construction lineup features durable Kubota engines, more comfort, and the versatility to do it all and do it right. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Lee Tractor Company. On the web at leetractor.net.
I look at the Bigfoot field. Let me explain it this way. I look at the Bigfoot field, okay? We have the people who believe that it is a monkey or a great ape, and they're not interested in anything else. We have the people who believe all the woo involved with it. Then we have the people who believe that they are a people and should have voting rights as well. Okay, that we've thinned out the subject matter so much that it's going to be nearly impossible to try and find some sort of actual process or understanding of the phenomena in general.
So my question is to you, which group is actually doing the real research?
My answer to that would be the group that's not excluding anything, because science is not about exclusion. It's about finding the answers on what to exclude and what not to.
It's all about being unbiased in your research. And that's what we are trying to do. So hopefully we will actually bring that all back to the field.
What are we missing here? Or as if we take the paranormal field in one giant umbrella term, what do you think we are missing regarding the data of actually proving the existence of ghosts, spirits, entities, hauntings, whatever we want to call it?
What are we missing? We're missing the data. We're missing the fact that people aren't publishing their research if they are collecting data. We're missing the fact that there's not enough people being more skeptical, more, critical thinking of being applied, more common sense being applied. We're missing a lot of that. And that is a challenge, because sometimes you wonder if the audience is too far gone because they're so dependent on what they see on TV. And you have to show them that a lot of these shows are for your entertainment. If you get bored, you're not going to tune in next week to watch the next episode. So they have to keep it exciting for everybody. And we all know science can be boring for a lot of people. People don't want to see the numbers. People don't want to see the data. And it's sad, because we are really, truly trying to prove something or validate something. And this is the way to do it. So if you are having those experiences, those paranormal experiences, wouldn't it be nice to show that there's data to back that up as well?
Well, that's what we would all hope. Television tells something different. 98% of the ghost hunters out there say something different.
And if those ghost hunters are truly trying to have a better understanding of what's happening in this field, you would think that they would want to come to us and say, hey, teach us, show us what we're doing wrong. Because we would love if the community was out there doing what we're doing, because we can't do it all on our own. We need people out there helping us to collect more data and research.
That would require a full database, though, would it not? And that's where I see a lot of the difficulty coming on in, because not everybody wants to share evidence or help another team out.
True. But there are people, even if it is a small majority, like-minded people that really want to have a better understanding, that will really want to be more scientific in their approach. And we need to all come together and start here.
Okay. How would you go about doing that, though, in trying to build that team of, whether it's 10, 30, 100 different groups, to kind of come together and actually present their evidence together?
By publishing our research. That's the first step. When other people who are like-minded and see our research, they will reach out to us and say, wow, this is awesome. We want to get involved.
Wow, that I would love to see that happen, Ross. I really,
So
I really would. I just don't know, and I'm not trying to sound negative here. I just don't know if it's possible with the egos that are involved in this field.
Like I said, there are still a lot of good people out there that, believe in what we're trying to do. And I think those are the people that are going to help us pave the way as well. So even if we start as a small community, that's great. We can only build from there.
When we come back from the break, I'd love for you to tell some spooky stories, because I know you got quite a few that you're always good to share some of your spooky encounters that you've had, because you know what? We could talk ghosts all night long, but I know our audience also wants to hear some spooky stories that you have encountered while on the road, on checking out all these haunted locations across the United States and wherever your ghost meters take you. Ross Allison from A Ghost. You can find all his books on Amazon. He's a great author, one of the best researchers, and we got him for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, bud, I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I'm just going to take you out of here for a few seconds, and then I'll be right back, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right. Love the hat, man. Love the hat.
So would you hit the wrong button? Get us kicked
No.
off?
I just put you back in the green room.
Oh, okay.
I put myself in the green room there for a minute. We got about 90 seconds, bro.
So I hope I'm doing okay.
You're doing great, as per usual, buddy. As per usual.
Well, I hope we're building more of an audience than losing an audience.
We're pretty steady all night.
Awesome. Even those that question the nudity?
I don't care. I really don't care. Let me see here. Oh, let's go here.
You know, and I think people don't realize that nudity is not, they're not really naked when you see them. Everything's blurred out. You know, so you have that element as well.
Very true. Very true. Dude, I can't wait to get you back up here, man. I really can't. That's pretty awesome. We got about 25 seconds here.
Okay.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Just go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Malapert. Malapert is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as a clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, from Seattle, Washington, Ross Allison. His team is called A Ghost, down in the Emerald City, checking out everything that is paranormal and supernatural. And for the final half hour that we have Ross here, we're going to get into some of his more creepy stories that he has investigated over the years. Ross, welcome back.
Always good to be here.
All right. Now, you're a guy who has pretty much been there and done it all when it comes to the paranormal. You've experienced a lot. Is there a happenstance that you've experienced that you just would not want to happen again?
To be honest with you, no. I've been, in some of the scariest places around the world, and I've had situations where I would say I've been a little uncomfortable, but I would never say no to having the opportunity to investigate a location, whether it's positive or even in the negative. I got to investigate the place, where the Exorcist case took place, and had some pretty, crazy phenomena happen. Phenomena where I captured an EVP that when I'd ask, can you tell me whose room this is? And again, this is the room. If you're not familiar, let me do a back up here. I investigated the room where the Exorcist case took place, and that was at St. Louis University. And the boy had been moved around during the exorcism because the church believed that they could not perform a full exorcism on him in the church because this could possibly kill him. So they had performed multiple exorcisms on him in various secret locations before they finished the last exorcism at the hospital hospital. Now, I was in the room where an exorcism took place. It was abandoned, filled with dead birds. That makes it even more creepier. And all the equipment is going off like crazy. And as all the equipment was going off, I decided to try for some EVPs as it started to slow down a little bit. And I had asked the question, can you tell me whose room this is? Well, when I finally got a chance to listen to my recordings when I got home after my lecture tour, I actually captured the voice responding, "It's mine." But it actually said, before it said that, it said, "F you, it's mine." So, yeah. So that was pretty intimidating, and I would go back in a heartbeat. Now, I will be honest, there are places I would not want to investigate alone for safety reasons, but I would go back, definitely, because how can I call myself a paranormal investigator if I'm too afraid to investigate the paranormal?
Well, I got to ask, what are some of those places that you would love to investigate but never alone? I mean, that sounds pretty creepy.
Well, going back to where the Exorcist case took place, that would be a good one that I definitely would want somebody with. My experience at the Bel Air House in Bel Air, Ohio, that place has been featured on a few television shows as well. And that was probably the first case throughout my career that doing the investigation. Now, I was a guest investigator with a team that likes to do investigations by themselves. So they'll separate alone into various locations on the property, and they'll have cameras on them, to validate their experience. I don't believe in investigating alone because, again, for, safety reasons and for credibility reasons, you want to see what, to have somebody there to validate your experience. So being that they, do their experiments with cameras on them, I was a little more open to it because, again, if anything's to happen, at least I have some validation with the cameras, hopefully capturing what happened. So for the first time in my career, I didn't want to do this. I did not want to be in this room. And now this is the room that they call the rape room because people, or I should say women, had been physically attacked in this room. And I just did not want to be there. I just had this feeling and this aching feeling, and I was getting mad at myself. I was just like, come on, Ross, you can do this. What's the big deal? You've done this plenty of times. And so there was that frustration inside of me, and I was fighting it. And so I was in the room. I was just trying to get through it. I had asked the question, can you give me a sign that you're here? And after I'd asked that question, the thermal camera flew off the tripod into the air. I screamed. It is on camera. And it was just a situation that I think something was there in the room, and it was warning me. Now, that is a place that I would definitely go back to, but I would not want to be alone.
Have you ever had a situation that you felt was uncontrollable, that you couldn't get out of? And I think of David Spink's house when I'm thinking about this, or maybe I remember you talking when you checked out and investigated the old Brushy Mountain prison.
And what was the question again?
In regards, you were in a situation that you had zero control of what was going on.
Well, you always have zero control of what's going on whenever you investigate the paranormal. It's, as I've said, it's all about being at the right place at the right time. You never know what's going to happen. You just are hoping that you'll be prepared and be able to capture the phenomena to validate the experience. So you're never in control when you go into a haunted location.
Out of all the haunted cases that you have taken part of over the last 30 years, what's the most memorable for you?
Well, the other two that I talked about.
Yeah, besides those.
Definitely. I'm trying to think. Another great one was when we investigated Chillingham Castle because I do travel all over the world doing this. And Chillingham Castle is notorious for being one of the most haunted locations in the UK. And we had the place. It was a very small group staying there, so we went when it was more in the off season because we wanted to make sure that we'd have more of a controlled environment. Unfortunately, it's very, very, very expensive if you want to rent the place for yourself. So we end up having to do one of the public events, and we took the tour. And there was probably just 2 other groups of 3 to 4 people. So it was nice because they weren't actually ghost hunters. They were just tourists staying at this beautiful historic castle. We were the only ghost hunters there.
National Car Rental has your back, road warriors. Because we know you want to get back to going your speed. You're hitting the road. And National's helping you get there with the confidence of our complete clean pledge. So get back to skipping the counter without missing a beat. Back to choosing any car in the aisle. And back to being the boss of you. National Car Rental. Go like a pro. Subject to availability and other restrictions. Requires enrollment in the complimentary Emerald Club.
On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. I mean, that's real. There ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
So during the tour guide says, no one wants to be in the woods or can be in the woods on the property at night after midnight.
Why?
They can't. They say they freak out and run right back into the castle. Well, for me, that's challenge accepted. All right. So after midnight, we go into the woods, and it's just outside the castle, so we can still see the castle, but it was an extremely dark night. I mean, it was so dark you could barely see the hand in front of your face. It was that kind of darkness that you're dealing with out. And this castle is in the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle of nowhere. So we're out in these woods walking around, and we hear women starting to talk. Now, there are stories of you'll hear, women talking and singing and humming in the woods. And so we're like, oh my gosh, is this paranormal? But then I also remembered that there were a group of females that were staying at the castle. So I immediately thought, okay, they're probably coming out to see what happens after midnight as well. Now we're looking around for them because, again, it's so dark, you would at least need a flashlight to see around. We had to have flashlights to see around in the woods. And so I'm looking around for their flashlights to see where they are, and there's no flashlights. And I can't, pick out where they're coming from because the noise is coming from all different directions. And then we just realized, wow, could this be that paranormal experience that people talk about when they're in the woods, hearing those ladies out there talking and singing?
My goodness. And I'm assuming that no matter how far you went into the forest, the sound never got louder. It never got quieter. It stayed right the same.
Yeah. Because literally, I was trying to debunk it. I was thinking it was the tourists, that group of tourists.
See, here's one thing that I've noticed, and one of the things that baffles me is I think ghost hunting in nature is a way different ball game than going to a house or a castle or a cemetery or a haunted prison where you have walls around you. When you have nature where there's no walls, where there's nothing holding in anything, I mean, you don't know where these sounds are coming from. You don't know what's creating these sounds. Could it be ghosts? Could it be fairies? Could it be gnomes? Could it be anything, under David Weatherly's library, that's really causing all of this? How different is it, investigating outside in a situation like that comparatively to investigating inside that castle or any other sort of building?
Well, it is a much bigger challenge because you're right. You're not in a controlled environment. You're dealing with all kinds of different elements. And so you have to be aware of that when you go into the outdoors. So in a situation, yeah, you're dealing with animals that could be making noises. You can't assume every, tree branch that you hear break is a ghost. It could be other things out there. And so you really have to apply those debunking skills before you can label anything paranormal.
Very true. Have you ever had an encounter where another part of the phenomena has taken place? And what I mean by that is a lot of people who have had ghostly encounters may see a UFO or a cryptid of some sort. Have you ever had anything like that happen?
Me personally, no. Now, I have heard the stories, and I keep an open mind. I know you're a big believer in them all colliding together. I'm not sure. My main focus has always been ghosts. I've always been fascinating with that element of the paranormal field. So that's where my passion lies, doing ghosts and dabbling a little bit in psychic phenomena as well. So when it comes to do those worlds, connect in some way, I'm not sure. I've never experienced, Bigfoot on a ghost investigation. I've never experienced UFOs on a ghost investigation. But again, not enough data out there and information to completely understand what's going on.
But you're not ruling it out either.
I can't.
That's what I like about you. You're not ruling out anything until the evidence says otherwise. Okay,
exactly.
So as we continue on here, I would love to learn a couple more spooky stories from you. You've been right across the United States. You've investigated a little bit here in Canada as well. For you, we hear about all of the big locations, the popular locations where every paranormal team, wants to go and at least get their teeth into, say they've done, Gettysburg or Waverly Hills or Alcatraz. For you, is there a difference, or do you have a story from some little small part of America or Canada that people wouldn't know that you're like, this is a hot spot?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'd have to think a little bit more about that, because I have been to so many places, and yes, it's on the bucket list to hit a lot of the more popular locations, like Gettysburg or, some of the sane asylums or prisons. I think when it comes to more of the unknown locations, some of those come from having the opportunity to explore locations like with Merle. He's introduced us to some places that didn't have a big recognition, and to have the honor of being the first American group to investigate, Barkerville was amazing.
What did you find there?
I found that, in fact, that was the beginning of the naked experiments, and we had a subject have some experiences in the old brothel. So that was pretty interesting. I know in the the old opium house, we had some pretty interesting EVPs that we captured there. So that's a place that a lot of people don't know of. Especially being haunted. So that was a huge honor to investigate that place. Excluding people's private homes and property, or even some of the businesses, it's something I'd have to think a little bit more of what some of the places that people don't really know, because I am so much about publishing the research. And now that me and David have had the opportunity to work together and put all these books out on haunted locations, a lot of those places are getting to be more well known now.
Yeah, you're taking blame for that.
Yeah,
you are. A lot of people always want to know about demons. It always comes up with the paranormal, and I know you're on the side of, there isn't a lot of demonic activity out there. It's blown out of proportion by the television shows where, a dog farts in the background and you got demons, and right now I can tell you in studio with my dog lying in here, Doug, Doug, you've met him before, we got demons in here right now as we speak,
Sure.
as we speak. But I'm curious, regarding this. Have you ever ran into demonic activity? And tell us a story if you have.
Well, I don't like to use the term demonic, because if you're using the term demonic, then obviously you're using a belief of religion. And again, to be scientific in your research, you cannot be biased in any way. So I don't apply religion to my research or my belief system. So when it comes to negative encounters, yes. Just due to the fact that you can have very negative people. In fact, when I wrote the prison book, Haunted Prisons with David Weatherly, you could learn so much about what horrible things a human being can do to another human being. That could be demonic or evil, as some people would like to put. And so, yes, I think that energy can remain. And so I have experienced situations, just talking about the, exorcist case. When you go into a room where an exorcism has been performed and you ask the question, whose room this is, and you get this very dominant male voice say, F you, it's mine. A lot of people would say that's evil. So, yes, I believe that there are very negative and hurtful entities out there, just like there are very negative and hurtful people out there as well. So that's my definition when it comes to a lot of the negativity you can experience in this field without calling it a demon.
We have about 3.5 minutes left with you tonight. Ross Allison is our guest on Spaced Out Radio. Ross, what's your dream location? Where would you want to investigate?
Well, I think my dream location would be going to places where I haven't been yet. I have been all over the world, from, Japan, China, investigating haunted locations throughout Europe, throughout the UK. I've been, to Italy. I've been to Greece and Turkey. I think for me, one of the big spots I'd like to investigate is I've never been to Australia. So I'd love to go see some of the haunts in Australia. That would be an amazing adventure. So it's really hard for me to pinpoint a place because I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to investigate some of the most well-known haunted locations.
Come on, there's got to be a dream. What about North America? Is there a dream?
Well, I hear Merle's got some great places lined up for us if we ever get up there. So I would be honored to have those experiences as well. I don't remember all the names, but we
gotta get you up here.
I'm sure you know some of these places he wants to take us to.
Oh, that's Merle. That's Merle. That's if he's allowed, because there are teams in British Columbia right now trying to block every location possible.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we got that going on up here. We got paranormal greed happening here in British Columbia. It is finally hit. Finally hit.
The sad fact is that it does happen everywhere. I hear a lot of paranormal groups out there around the world that experience it from these competing, ghost hunting groups. And I feel that is the worst thing that we could be doing in this community, because we do need to share these locations. Because as I said, it's all about being at the right place at the right time. We can't always be there. And so with other groups having the opportunity to share locations, hopefully we can collect the same evidence and build on the credibility to show the public that we are on the right path of, conducting investigations and collecting evidence.
My good friend Ross Allison, I want to say a big thank you for you coming on the show tonight, man. Wearing the top hat at my request, because I love the top. I love the top hat, and one day I'm going to get myself a top hat just so I can rock with you and Weatherly. That's for sure.
Well, I'll put it this way: I will not wear this top hat again on your show until you have a top hat. No more making me the odd man out.
That's a tough deal. I will go get one. I will go get a top hat just for you. Tell our listeners, my friend, where they can find you, your videos, your books, everything. We got 1 minute.
All right, so I definitely encourage people to follow me on Facebook, Ross Allison Ghost Hunter. I do a lot of postings and a lot of live investigations there. You can find my books on Amazon, Ross Allison, as well there. To learn more about Parasense, go to touchedbyaghost.com. You can see the trailer there, and we'll be uploading some of the experiments we've done. And then, of course, if you're ever in the Seattle area, check out Spooked in Seattle. We do ghost tours. We do public ghost hunts as well on a ship, in an old elementary school, and we're opening up some more in the near future. Plus, you can also check out our death museum.
Right on, my friend. It's always a good time to have you on Spaced Out Radio. And for people listening, in just 2 nights' time, Ross will be back as we, the final Wednesday of every month, do a show called The Angry Ghost Hunter on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel. We'll get into some hot button paranormal topics then as well. Ross Allison, my good friend, thank you so much for coming on the show. Coming up next, the fedora-wearing John Hudson is back with the what do we call it? The Unbiased UFO Report. I'm so excited John's back, I can't even say the name. We'll be back right after this. Great show, buddy.
Awesome.
Great show. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it.
Well, I hope the audience liked it too.
Well, it was some mixed feelings in there, man. Some mixed feelings in there, but that's okay. It was a damn good show as per usual, but I always appreciate you. You're so knowledgeable and candid with your research. You're like I brag all the time to our audience. You're one of the best. You really are one of the best.
And I just strive to hopefully get other people to join me,
I'm on the Ross Allison team, man.
Well, hopefully once, Parasense gets out there and people can see the research from the beginning to the end, they'll be more open to it. That's all I ask.
All right, brother. Well, you take care. I'll let you go. Enjoy your night. And much love to you, my friend. And we'll talk to you in a couple of nights' time, okay?
All right. You take care. Be safe.
All right, buddy. Take care. Good night. All right. Ross Allison, everybody. Ross frickin' Allison. Love him. Love him. All right. Just wait for John to connect, and then we'll be good. All right. Look at that. The fedora wearing John Hudson. What a beautiful
What's up, my
look.
friend?
What a beautiful look.
Let me get my earpiece hooked up here so I don't cause any echo here.
How's the chin hair?
Oh, hanging in, you know.
Looking
Had it
beautiful.
going on had it going on forever. I'm actually kind of impressed that my wife is still, you know, cool with it. I think she kind of forgot it existed, to be very honest with you.
All right. Here we go, brother. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again for the unbiased UFO Report. And once again, we are joined by the fedora-wearing John Hudson, where we take a look at everything UFO and the stories that are making it throughout the headline news. John, welcome back, buddy. I know you haven't been feeling well lately, and I know you took a week off last week, but we're sure glad to have you back, my friend.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here too, David. I just finally sent you the itinerary. I apologize for not doing
At Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.
When getting the job done right is job one, you need construction equipment that's built right. From compact track loaders to the world's #1 selling compact excavator, the Kubota construction lineup features durable Kubota engines, more comfort, and the versatility to do it all and do it right. Visit your local Kubota dealer today. Go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Lee Tractor Company. On the web at leetractor.net.
earlier.
Ah, that's okay. All right.
Yeah, yep.
Let's get right to it. This Astro thing, man. This is a huge, huge report that could be coming out. Let's let everybody know what Astro is.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, this is God, what's the best way to think of this? You know, the best way to think of this is the one of the reasons why you see a lot of repetition in what you see in all of this movement is that there are repeated things being attempted. There are repeated attempts being tried to do things, and each one of them is like, oh, another swing at the fences, right? And we all keep hoping that one of these is gonna make contact, right? And so this case is one of those where essentially, you have basically it's twofold, right? It's one that it has a lot of very cool provisions in it. It's written in a way that's very sensical. It's very logical to me anyway. To me, it was very easy to understand. It didn't seem to be hiding anything in it, a lot of convoluted language. And so it was easy to understand from that point of view. And then outside of that point of view, because a lot of us, myself included, aren't super familiar with how the Gateway works and Beltway works and how that whole apparatus of Congress works, is that what we've been watching the selling of a lot of this language that has been passed around for a couple months now, right? And seeing who can get attracted to it and who cannot. And so essentially with this whole Astro, which I love the name of it, it cracks me up. is now basically getting a bunch of people like, Elizondo and Christopher Mellon to basically step up and write blog posts and so forth. So it's starting to see all this kind of, all the kind of ants line up in the jungle, to support the most current likely candidate for victory, right? And if they fall, well, they'll be gladly missed. Next candidate, please, right? Like, you just keep moving along, I mean, what choice do you have,
Well, this is getting big, man. This is getting big, especially for public access to the information. I mean, when we are hearing senators in the U.S. government stating that we really need to bring this out to the public, do you really buy the fact that they are wanting to bring it out to the public, or that the people speaking, whether it's Senator Gillibrand, who has the motion on the table right now, do you think they fully understand or comprehend the magnitude of this story?
I think sadly, I think the real sad truth of the matter is when it comes to security, there are probably some very vastly different ships in the night that are passing that explain some of this behavior that have nothing to do with one another, but get globbed all in together. So is some of it the U.S. maintaining its military supremacy with a 50-year head start? Sure. Some of it is that, I'll buy that for no problem. And I think there's a lot of things like that where it's like, this thing has an impact. This thing, I think it's hard to find a single silver bullet that that kind of explains all of it by any means, shape, or form. But I think you're starting to see what some of the more likely what some of the more likely suspects are in your lineup, of combatants in the future.
Well, I will say this. On the Max Moskovitz show out of, I believe, Denmark, I think that's where he's located, he recently had on Christopher Mellon, Luis Elizondo, and Avi Loeb talking about Astro. And Chris Mellon seemed to be very optimistic by his sources that there's a good chance this is going to pass.
Yep. And Chris doesn't, honestly, I shouldn't even say that, but it's Secretary Mellon. This dude has earned his respect and deserves his respect. He's not someone who took it. He earned it. He's done some magnificent work in his different roles, and he really has his he has his finger as much on the pulse of that world as you can, right? Within reason, he's always going to be surprised. Sure, absolutely. Look what happened with TTSA, right? Everyone thought we were going to get that funding too, So things go wrong, but I think this time, I think a lot of lessons have been learned, and I don't think I think Mellon would be making that kind of statement. I don't think you'd see people coming in to support this as late in the process as we're seeing right now. If they, like most people in my mind, most people coming out now in support of this are coming because they're buying cover. They're not offering cover, right? Now they're seeing this as something that's going to work, and they're trying to get cover from it. They're not people who are looking for someone straddling in the field, and they've run out with a bunch of leaves to help block their sunlight so they make it in. That's not this group, right? This is a different scenario. So it's so much fun to watch, and I didn't get to see all of Max's show, but if anyone hasn't checked it out yet, he gives a good perspective, and I encourage everyone to check it out.
What would be the benefit of posting and having this program hit law in the United States?
What do you mean by that?
What would be the benefit to not only the United States but the world?
Oh boy. Well, okay. Look, here's the deal. This is not an if. Okay, this is a when, and the when's always had components to it, right? Things that have to happen, right? And we all have a basic idea what those components look like, and this looks like the big thing. Like, this looks like the thing. And if it stays looking like the thing, as it continues. And then if they actually get the funding and the people to actually properly build it up, I mean, the problem is, man, is that you could have full bipartisan support of this. You could have every major U.S. news broadcast agency like cheering these guys on, like giving them like white carpets to walk on, and you're still not going to know. You're still not going to have any data to say whether how they approached the problem was a successful approach for 3 years.
Are we
Right.
are we going to get true transparency out of this, John?
Well, we will to a degree, but once again, it all depends on your point of view, right? Because I mean, look at okay, take for example, the F-35, right? A large percentage of the F-35 technology had to be invented for its use. It didn't invent before we did it. When we invented it, we didn't put it on normal patent cycles. We put it on short shift patent cycles, which means after they go through their normal short shift, like 15-year, I think it is, patent cycle, they get released into the U.S. market for usage. Now, the U.S. market won't even know why they're welding this way. They won't know why they're building this way. They'll just know that they got some update to a patent. And what they won't know is that it's got 30, 40, 50 years of U.S. Navy engineering behind it, right? And that's how a lot of this stuff gets, kind of gets, bled out into the world. And so, I mean, it's, yeah, man, I don't know, Dave. It's certainly one hell of a time to be alive. I will say that. I mean, it is just, it is, but I think that when you look at, I think that whenever you're going to have any kind of technology that can be stripped down to a point where it cannot be seen as a real competitive advantage, or it can be seen as such a competitive advantage that it's still worth it, like GPS, right? GPS is a really good example, right? GPS is something that the U.S. government has run for Earth for free for a long time. Do we get a lot out of it? Oh, hell yes, we do, right? But we also do it because it's the right thing to do, right? And so I think that you will get some things, but anything that's seen as real military, 30 freaking years locked down, no one hears a pipe peep, no one hears anything about it. Anything that's considered to be competitive threat on a global scale is done through back channel doors with private companies, because it has to be, because the Air Force can't build jets, right? They have to ask Lockheed to do it, right? And then for all the stuff that doesn't potentially offend a local treaty, doesn't potentially affect a local export law, that stuff will become open and free. But that's going to be 2% of the technology, right? 5% of the technology. It'd be the stuff that like cleans water, does that kind of thing.
Right. All right, Dr.
Not going to give you lightsabers.
No lightsabers, damn it. Dr. Michio Kaku came out with some interesting comments.
Yeah, so this is just, I mean, once again, like I need to just stop worrying when I don't have a strong opinion about something that I'm mentioning, because I feel like I should be endorsing it if I'm asking you guys to read it. But my problem with some of these guys is that I read so much of their stuff that I just it gets kind of old hat for me with some of these guys. But the thing that I really liked about what he said is you can see in his language he's getting much freer to the way he talks and the way he's talking about what are the likely hypotheses for explanations of what we're seeing, and now not just saying you see an evolution, I guess is what I'm getting at, right? It went from just it's not aliens or extra, now it's off world. And then there's off planet versus there's off this, there's under, you can start seeing the language evolve, right? And the terminology evolve and so forth. And you're seeing, people from very different walks of life participate in it. Now, sure, you could put your tinfoil hats on and go, oh, it's a conspiracy. Someone's handing out new vocabulary lists for each week. Yes, here's your word, Bill, right? Like, no, I don't think it quite happens that way, but it definitely is. It is definitely huge progress, and it's fun to watch, and it's fun to see people like Professor Kaku getting some about of I don't know if it'd be credit or praise yet, but some recognition for the fact that he stepped out early. and spoke his views about this stuff. I'm hoping to see more of that.
All right, and finally tonight, we're going to see, as we talked a little bit just a few moments ago, with Senator Gillibrand and her legislation about revolutionizing UFO studies. Have we heard when this is going to come down as of yet? Because I know in talking to people in the UFO field that I've heard, they're hoping on Monday, but it could be before, could be after.
Yeah, the problem is these bills they're so big, and in the end, they're not fought over the whole thing. They're fought over 3 or 4 key issues that just end up bubbling up to the surface, at that given evening sort of thing, right? And so it depends. If a lot of really bad stuff comes out in it, they could easily dump it on Friday, because this is one of the best weekends in the U.S. year to dump news that you don't want people to look at. You could not ask for a better. I guess maybe like the Monday after Christmas Day might be a little bit better, but not much, right? It's like, this is about as dead as news can get, and so I'm very suspicious that that's why this is all happening when it's happening. Because they're planning on burning it in the news cycle. I think if it comes out on Monday in the normal feed and so forth, then I think that means that we actually saw some bipartisan support and people are actually all getting kind of gung-ho about it, which would be kind of amazing to see.
I'm going to make a prediction here, John.
Please.
News like this always comes out on a Friday afternoon. We saw it with the National Department of Defense or the NDI's report. Other UFO news has come out on Friday. If the government doesn't want people to speak to them about something and they want to test the public reaction, they have the weekend to do so. I think this comes out this Friday afternoon, sometime between 3 p.m. Pacific time and 6 p.m. Pacific time is when it will be released. That's my opinion. John, always good to have you back here on the Unbiased UFO Report. We'll talk to you in a little bit here. Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. All right, let's bring in Shirky Poo's news here. The head of an Italian marble statue in a New Brunswick cemetery was left next to the monument after more than 2 decades after it was stolen. Jenny Steves died at the age of 15 in 1900, and her mother had an Italian marble statue erected in her honor at the family's plot in the Grays Island Cemetery in Hillsborough in 1930. The statue was subject to numerous acts of vandalism, and in the ensuing decades and in the 1990s, the head disappeared. Kathleen Wallace, whose father was a nephew of Steve's mother, said the statue had long been the subject of local superstitions. There were all kinds of stories about the monument, that it was haunted, that the eyes had rubies in them, but none of that was true. It was just put there for the family plot and especially in the memory of Jenny. Wallace said that she and her sister filed police reports and offered rewards for the head's return when it was taken in the 1990s, but the disappearance remained a mystery. Wallace was then shocked when she saw a recent Facebook photo of the statue. It showed the statue with the head beside it, that the head had been returned. The cemetery's keeper brought the head to Wallace's home for safekeeping. Wallace and her sister Patricia said a relative of the person who created the statue has offered to restore it to its original condition. Moving on here, if you're a fan of the artist Banksy, well, you could get a piece of his artwork for down just $60 from a New York subway station. Yep. Over the summer, Banksy hit the British seaside for his Great British Spraycation, painting a string of graffiti murals around the areas and later confirming the works. Now, according to TikTok, it seems the elusive artist is back, this time selling works inside the New York subway station. Speaking in a TikTok, 26-year-old Colleen Alexander explained that she was switching trains on her way home from work when she passed an art exhibition at the 14th Street and 8th Avenue stations with pieces resembling Banksy's work. There were pieces of art scattered on the subway stop floor, no tarp, no plastic, nothing protecting them, she said, noting that she had just read about New York's recent Banksy exhibition. Recognizing the work, she chose to avoid filming the expedition to protect the artist's privacy. I didn't want to make light of it. It had his classic cash or Bitcoin only. This is not a photo opportunity, signs, and there was no one there. The paintings were just sitting there. Wow. Why can't that happen to me? I'm a giant Banksy fan. Giant Banksy fan. All right, moving on. Bad place for a flamingo, unless you're in Canada. A zoo in Quebec said a pink flamingo escaped. And where did it escape to? Well, it was found loitering in the parking lot of something truly Canadian, Tim Hortons. The Granby Zoo said the flamingo flew the coop and was spotted by customers in the parking lots of the local Tim Hortons donut shop. To reassure everyone that there wasn't a sale on shrimp at the IGA or a special on coffee at Timmy's, Carl Fournier, director of animal care at the Granby Zoo, said on TikTok, for reasons unknown, the flamingo escaped and flew away from its group. Our team quickly mobilized and captured him in a calm manner. No word if he got his box of Timbits. And finally tonight, police in Australia said a man was cited for driving without a license, and officers confiscated his unusual vehicle, a motorized cooler. The Swan Hill Police Service said officers stopped a 25-year-old man who was spotted driving a motorized cooler on a sidewalk in Kerrang. A photo posted to Facebook by police shows a blue cooler on a metal platform with 4 wheels, an engine, and handlebars arranged to indicate the cooler serves as the smallest vehicle seat. Police also shared a photo of the motorized cooler to load onto the back of a tow truck. Like they needed a tow truck for this thing. Come on. Here's your thought of the day. How do we advance the paranormal ghost investigating field? Kevin, by using proven scientific methods in a controlled double-blind experiment with human sacrificial test subjects and the torture of known loved ones. Otherwise, an everyday occurrence for Kevin. Joshua, not sure, but I feel like the TV shows that are now out don't help the cause. Lee, get rid of the fake ghost technology. Chris, quantum physics? Joe, to advance the field, we must go forward with pointy sticks. Dale, as are Keith and Samantha Mowat about ghost researchers at other races, how about they conduct their research? I don't know. Gail, I suggest we leave it and them alone. If they wanted to interact, wouldn't they come to us? Maybe they already have, Shirky Poo. Death training for Nicole. Andrew, who are you not going to call? That's right, the Ghostbusters. Matt, get proton packs. Robert, stop preconceptions. Could be a good idea. Penman, you guys aren't watching enough paranormal shows like Ghost Nation and Ghost Adventures. Final word goes to Solomon. Stop being silly and grow up. Thanks, Solomon. We're all going to do that now. Thank you to everybody in the Thought of the Day. John Hudson for the Unbiased UFO Report. And Ross Allison for showing up on the show tonight. And, of course, Shirky Poo and her great news. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
Make a mistake, we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
On December the 3rd, I tested positive for COVID. I was to the point where I really couldn't even walk.
She was admitted to the Tupelo Hospital. That's where she remained for 82 days.
That was the first time they told Reggie he could come see me.
I nearly lost my wife. I mean, that's real. That ain't no false information. And I don't want to see you lose a loved one.
Sponsored by Delta Health Alliance. Go to getyourshotms.org.
The work on your property never ends. Whether you're mowing, tilling, planting, grading, drilling, hauling, or anything in between, come see us at SunSouth. We'll help you find the John Deere tractor that's right for you with the implements you need to get your projects done faster, more efficiently, and more affordably. And right now at SunSouth, you can get 0% financing for 72 months on select John Deere tractors. Come see us at SunSouth. Equipment for those that do.
Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer expires November 30th, 2021.